It's the Utah Jazz. Battled, had fun, played hard, ran out of gas, lost to Fred VanVleet and the Toronto Raptors as Fred VanVleet went crazy great. And we're talking about it coming up on POSTCAST. David Locke along with Ron Boone on POSTCAST tonight, and we're going to break down what we saw from a bunch of our youngsters. Thanks very much for joining us. It was a fun night, though, Ron.
It was a fun night, especially the first half, and I thought the energy and the confidence that those young guys played in that first half was unbelievable.
All right, I think what fans really want to know is how these guys got a bunch of time played. Just going as our box score goes, Elijah Hughes played 41 minutes tonight, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. He had 8 rebounds, 4 assists tonight. He had 2 turnovers tonight. What do you see from Elijah Hughes?
I feel confidence, and that's probably a little bit more experience, I think, than a couple of those guys out there on the floor. But what I really saw was what you've been telling me, because I didn't know his college stats and what type of player that he was in college, being an ISO type player, but I did see that tonight with him.
7 threes tonight. He just came close to setting the record. I didn't know he had 8 rebounds in him. That was nice to see. So they had to do a lot of gang rebounding as Whiteside and Azubuike were pretty quiet on the boards tonight. Overall, he seemed confident. He seemed willing to shoot. He's a pretty good offensive player. I'd have to go back and look at how he did defensively. That's always been a question of coming out of Syracuse. They don't teach a lot of defense. Maybe to Elijah Hughes' advantage, Jazz played a lot of zone tonight.
Yeah, I thought in that first half they played fast enough to the point where he was getting, those uncontested looks from the 3-point line. I'm watching some of these players play, David, and I'm wondering now, especially with House coming, and hopefully he can help this team, is did Quinn see anything that's going to give some of these players some more confidence where they can put them out there on the floor in a crucial time, and he'll be comfortable with it.
Let's be perfectly honest. If health and safety protocols go to us like they have to every other team in the league, this is a pretty important night, because what's going to happen here for the next 2 weeks is we're going to have guys just constantly in and out of health and safety protocols. And so Elijah Hughes's and Eric Pascal's are going to have to play. Eric Paschal,
as long as it's not them.
Right. Yes. Right. Then they're going to go out for a little while. I mean, that's really every team in the league's been just struck by this, and it runs through your team, and you try to survive. I mean, the Spurs, I think, started Josh Primo tonight. I mean, they're that's what we're seeing. Eric Paschal played 37 minutes tonight. He had 29 points. He had 3 rebounds. He had 2 assists. We always talk about wanting a player to be exhausted at the end of the night. He was. He left every ounce of everything he had. I was super impressed by his attack of the rack, 10 free throws tonight, and also the quick jumping dunks, which I think you knew he had. But what do you see out of Eric Paschal tonight?
I saw something that I didn't know he had. Obviously he has not played that way since he's been here with the Jazz. We saw a little bit of him driving to the basket and dunking very quickly, but I didn't see the dribbling and in traffic and exploding to the basket. That type of thing. Wasn't very shy about shooting the threes. And how many threes?
7.
He took 7 3-point shot attempts, which is good for the most part. But I really like what I saw, because David, I thought he was a power player. Did not see his craftiness off the dribble, getting to the basket and that type of thing.
Trent Forrest got 35 minutes tonight. He went 3 of 6 from the field. He finished with 6 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 turnovers.
Yeah. That's something that was discussed today, is that turnovers was going to be a problem. If the Jazz turned it over, then the Jazz would not have very much success. And that was one of the things that they wanted to make sure that they did not do, and to give themselves a chance to win the basketball game. We all know the defense of the Raptors. They turn it over. They force you into turnovers. And so it was a concern with young players turning the ball over.
They force you into turnovers, and they grab offensive rebounds with their incredible length and athleticism. They did both. They had 19 offensive rebounds. The Jazz had 21 turnovers.
And I think when the Jazz went into a zone, I think that hurt the Jazz. But they went into a zone because they had to, because the guys getting tired. There was a number of guys out there that had just career minutes, and obviously with the pace of the basketball game, you're going to get tired. And the Jazz played 8 guys up until the last few minutes of the ball game. But that zone, the Jazz have never been very good at it. At a zone, I thought it kind of hurt the Jazz in that third period.
And the Jazz ended up with foul trouble on the night, and you just couldn't afford to have Paschal. He got in foul trouble. That really changed the game. Jared Butler got 32 minutes. I know fans were excited to see him. He got 17 points. He went 6 of 17 shooting, 3 of 9 from 3. He had 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 8 turnovers.
His turnovers, I thought, were turnovers that he has to correct. If he's going to turn it over off the dribble like that, that's way too many. And then his passing, as you mentioned, those passes have to be crisp. I mean, they have some velocity on it. You have to get it to the man you're throwing it to, and not just what I call practice passes, where you just lob it out there, that type of thing.
He drove the lane once through a behind the back kind of out pass back out. That's got to be 2 hands and pow, because if you leave it out there in the air, it gets taken the other way.
And what does that do, though, David? It makes your offense run a lot faster. It makes the defense have to shift a lot faster, and you're not. In other words, that soft pass puts the defense back into a defensive position, to the point where they're not scrambling.
Let's check one other guy before we look at some of the comments on our chat room. Daniel House made his debut tonight, 26 minutes, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a block. He went 4 of 7 from the field and 3 of 6 from 3.
How many rebounds?
He had 4 rebounds.
4 rebounds. And he's a shooter. And obviously, he can rebound. And I think we can get, I keep saying the Jazz can get good minutes out of him, plus a rebounder, and that could help. It's going to be interesting the second half of the season to see what players will, and I know Quinn doesn't like me saying this, can demand minutes because of what they're doing out there on the floor. But
well, there's a bunch of comments here. Greg George says, "Fun to see the guys play hard, but Fred was way too much in the third." Fred VanVleet put together a perfect third quarter tonight. He ended up with, he scored 19, I have to check it again, 24 points. I can pull it up.
He had 9 points at the quarter, at the break.
Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up. 30... Third quarter, VanVleet had 24 points on 8 of 8 shooting, 3 of 3 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. He also assisted on 3 field goals and had 2 steals. What the tribute to the young guys tonight is that they played hard enough and played with enough juice that it forced Fred VanVleet to win the basketball game. Like, that's pretty cool.
It forced him to change his game. That's for sure. It forced him to be more offensive minded. And then the fact that the Jazz were not scoring on one end, on their offensive end of the floor, gave the Raptors a chance to run and score early. And I thought that really, hurt the Jazz. And so offensively, I thought also with the Raptors starting to pick up full court, forcing these young guys to get into the front court a little over, the 16. But when they were getting to the offense, it was like 13 seconds on the clock, which is not good for trying to execute your offense.
Caitlin Runyon asks, what do you think of Malik Fitz? If I may, I'm going to take this one for a second because I think this is one of the more interesting scouting things in the league. It actually reminds me, there's an old Arizona player called Hassan Whiteside, and it was the first time I ever saw this. So there's a big difference between athleticism and what I would call functional athleticism. So Malik Fitz is an unbelievable athlete, but he has yet to figure out how to use that athleticism on a basketball court to be an elite athlete on a basketball court. So what I mean by that is, first of all, he's actually traveling every time he starts his move. They called him on it once. They were nice. They didn't call him the rest of the time. He's got to actually learn how to get that explosion without jumping both feet into his move. He travels every time he starts a move. The second one is he's driving to the basket. He's always beating his guy. He's got great strength. He's always beating him. And then he can come out of the rafters with his jumping. But he's always going full speed, and he always has to go to 2 feet. And in this league, 1, you got to change pace, and 2, going to 2 feet takes just a split second. And unless you're going up one-on-one on a guy, knowing you're going to try to gain the contact for the strength, Donovan does this very well. That second foot down allows the defense to collapse and get up. And you saw a bunch of times tonight where he drove, so the athleticism was there, right? It's amazing. The next step is what I would call the functional athleticism. How are you going to use your height? How are you going to use these various things to get over the top? And so I'm a huge fan. I loved him in the preseason. I actually knew of him last year with the Clippers. He's the kind of guy that I think should always be your two-way player, because as we've talked about before, he has multiple routes by which he can get on the floor. He can play the 4, he can play the 2, he can play the 3. I'm a fan, but these are the development things he has to have. And I actually thought those development things kind of got exposed a little bit tonight. So I'm not trying to criticize him. I'm just trying to share an interesting scouting respect.
can't add too much to that.
Okay.
Because he's I totally agree with you there. And what I do agree with you is a 2-foot jumper sometimes can get your shot blocked, or there's other times when you can control the way you're shooting at the rim, meaning you're drawing the contact and then finishing at the rim.
I want to leave this one for you because I think it's really interesting. Van Vliet reminds me of Darren Williams, not spelled correctly, but go with it.
Ooh, Darren Williams probably a little bit bigger. Pretty good comparison. But I don't know. I don't think that. Yeah, they're pretty good comparison, but I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
All right, that was a fun one. Thanks for tuning in to POSTCAST. Jazz and the Raptors were back in Indiana. Let's see if we can get out of Toronto without COVID. That's really what the whole goal of tonight was. Let's see if they can get it done on the Jazz. And the Pacers tomorrow will be back with you. Thanks for tuning in here to POSTCAST.